Why, hello there and welcome back. Thanks for turning up for part 4. Before we get started, there's a small thing I'd like to point out about Nathan's intro.
We ain't seen no curvature. We ain't seen no curvature.
We ain't seen no curvature. That's a double negative right there and means you do indeed see curvature. That's game over, I suppose. But anyway, on to the main event. Take it away.
Canadian Geodetic Surveying. Canals. Cannons shot straight up prove there's no Coriolis. Constellations. Cold Moonlight. There is no Coriolis. Crepuscular Rays. CGI from NASA. CGI globes. Sun, solar system, planets. I mean, it's insane. It's all a joke.
Geodetic surveying is a branch of surveying which deals with areas so extensive that it is necessary to take into consideration the shape and dimensions of the Earth. Its main objective isn't to show the shape of the Earth, but to set a precise and rigid control for the coordination of all other surveys. The fact that the Earth is an oblate spheroid is at the very heart of all geodetic surveying. Is it because terms like levelling are regularly used? Refer to my part on buildings in the previous video for what level means. Why just the Canadian Geodetic Survey? Why not any of the others? Why would any survey go to such absurd lengths to produce a system that can be used to compute exact locations anywhere in the world if the system would fall apart on a flat plane, with the discrepancies increasing the further away from the datum point a location is? It is clear you do not understand this subject at all. As this is such a deep and complex topic, I'll leave some links in the description below for those who would like to read up on it more. Canals are man-made waterways that have their water levels kept artificially high via a system of locks and weirs to help keep flow to a minimum. This allows boats and ships to navigate them easily as they're not having to fight the currents present in rivers. You usually follow up this claim with drivel like, well, the Suez Canal was constructed between the Mediterranean and Red Seas over a distance of 190.3 kilometres, 120.11 miles, without taking curvature into account. I did it again, sorry, not sorry. Again, this is similar to what I said in the buildings part of my last video. Essentially, if you excavate a channel at the consistent depth relative to the sea, curvature is automatically taken into account. Why would they show it? For the Coriolis effect to be most apparent, the cannons would have to be shot directly north or south with sufficient range for it to occur. When fired straight up, Coriolis will have negligible effect because of something known as conservation of momentum. Constellations and their diurnal motion, which is their apparent motion around the celestial poles, in no way, shape or form can be used as a proof of a flat Earth. I mean, how could they? You can't even use them as a proof of a stationary Earth. The aforementioned diurnal motion results in stars and the constellations in the northern hemisphere appear to rotate counterclockwise around Polaris, and clockwise around octans in the southern. Talking of octans, why can't I see it from here in the UK? And how could two observers in South Africa and South America be able to look due south and see octans at 0124 UTC on the September the 10th, 2020. The only difference they would see is its orientation in the sky. If they were on a flat Earth, they would be looking in two completely different directions as shown in this image. The reason they don't appear to change, spoiler alert, they do, just not at a speed we can notice during our own lifetime, is because the stars we see with the naked eye are all contained in a very small portion of the Milky Way. They are therefore all moving in a similar direction and speed to us. This doesn't prove a flat Earth any more than constellations. It just proves that you have little to no understanding of physics. What you are witnessing is an effect called radiative cooling. Look it up. You will get the same temperature difference between the same object undercover and in the open air when the moon isn't in the night sky. You also have to make sure that the objects are made of the same material to negate any specific heat capacity effects. Seeing as this is probably too hard for you to understand, I did my own test. I held one hand in moonlight and the other in shade, and felt zero cooling effect on the moonlight on my hand. There, I used my own sensors. Well, tell that to hurricanes then. And while you're at it, please explain how hurricanes and cyclones rotate in opposite directions dependent on whether they're in the northern or southern hemispheres, whilst simultaneously explaining why the border between the difference in direction remains on the equator no matter the time of year. The reason that aircraft aren't affected by the Coriolis effect is because they have engines to overcome it. Yeah, these are caused by a phenomena known as perspective. You know it. It's the one that you say makes the sun disappear bottom first over the horizon. Now, because the sun is so large and far away, its light can be considered to be hitting the planet in nearly parallel rays. Not perfectly, hence why shadows get an increasing shadow gradient the further away from the object casting them they are. Thusly, these crepuscular rays are also parallel, and are subject to the effect of perspective. You really can't think in 3 dimensions, can you? Plus, you're completely ignoring anti-crepuscular rays, like these. See how these vanish into a point, but the sun is behind the camera? You don't get to pick and choose when perspective applies so that it fits your false narrative. Okay. How do you determine if something is CGI? What criteria and techniques do you use? What are the margins of error in these criteria and techniques? If you were to use these on, say, photos of yourself, will they show that you are CGI? This spinning ball in the corner, down here in the bottom left, is CGI. It does not exist outside of the algorithms running in the 3D software I use to render it. The background is a composite. Someone went into Dresden Station in Germany and took a load of very high definition photographs from a single point in multiple directions. They then used Photoshop to stitch them together. This is what compositing is. Does this make Dresden Station CGI? Or do you think Mark Sargent's technique is a concrete proof? Simply playing around with the levels adjustment in Photoshop. Here's an image of you. Let's tweak the levels around a bit and lo and behold, it seems you're CGI by his standards. Or is it just artifacts inherent to image compression? Anyway, I'll put you back to your original. And that's the C's taken care of. Thanks once again for sticking around to the end, and I apologise for the potential nightmare fuel right at the end there, but I couldn't help myself. Don't forget to do the usual YouTubey stuff of hitting like and subscribe, etc. Even though I'm only starting out, each and every one is greatly appreciated. And with that, I'll catch you next time.